At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Love that clip. Rational thoughts. Rational is overrated. We want something that's entertaining and useful. And that's what we have today in our show, folks. We've got a 3-time best-selling author. He's a creator of the Publish, Position, and Profit Master Plan. He makes it easy for, coaches, consultants, speakers, solopreneurs, people like you, I think, to write a world-class book in 5 weeks and get clients before they're even published. This is what we do. I love it. And that means they can create the life they want, the business they love, and make a bigger impact sooner rather than later. Our guest has helped a Fortune 100 company shift their culture by creating an empathy video game in collaboration with MIT. Ooh, must be smart. He's trained leaders at Stanford and created the first mindfulness program for the ALS Foundation. That's Lou Gehrig's disease. He has 35 years of writing and publishing adventures, and he's also worked with the very prolific and #1 magazine out there, AARP, which like 352 million copies of that magazine has gone out. So he believes that people should thrive when they relax, smile, and quit suffering now. Without further ado, our guest today, Ben Gioia. Ben, how are you today?
I'm doing super duper well, Doug. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Magazines, books, Fortune 100 companies, mindfulness apps. I don't even know where to begin. Tell you what, before we get into all that good stuff, let the people, the audience know what they can get out of today's quick conversation with me. What takeaway or what lessons could they learn?
Right. Basically, to not wait till their book is published to bring their message to the world. I think that's the most important conceptual bit and inspirational bit. And the other part of that is I'm going to talk about some ways that I did that myself that you can totally apply to your business. Really simple and straightforward.
Yeah. It's so funny in our industry. There's I've had a couple other people on our show that do exactly what I do or similar to what I do, which is we help people, position and ghostwrite and publish their book for them and market them. And I had this one gal on a few weeks ago, and she's like, well, are we competitors? I said, let me ask you a question. Who do you know that owns just one book? I said, nobody has one book. I have one car, so I might be competing, Subaru and Toyota, but I got hundreds of books. So thankfully, our industry, we don't have competition. And you started with the writing and publishing thing in magazines before books, or tell me your backstory.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to being like 12 years old and, a teacher saying, keep a journal. And then I started doing yearbook in high school, right? And 4 years of that. So I've been writing and publishing stuff kind of from forever. And on the entrepreneurial journey, which has been, I'm just coming in or just past my 12th year now. I figured out the book writing stuff made a lot of sense. Like suddenly it was like, wait a minute, I've been helping people do this. I have all of this relevant background, and I have the really, really interesting experience of having written my book in 5 weeks in a really, amazing, unexpected situation that I, want to talk a little bit more about today.
All right, I want to hear it. I want to hear what the situation was. I got you to do that. Yeah, that's record time.
Thank you. Yeah, so somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn several years ago, and they said, hey, would you like to come do a couple days training to visiting people here at Stanford University, visiting business people here at Stanford University? And I said, I would absolutely love to do that. Thank you so much. So we signed the contract, worked out the whole thing. And I said, hey, I'm going to, as an added value to you, to your audience, I'm going to show up with autographed copies of my new book for everyone in the room. So it's about 130 people, and for you and your staff. She said, oh my God, that's amazing. This is the event planner. Oh my God, that's amazing, right? It looks good for us, makes us look good, really adds value to the audience. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. We hang up the phone, and I went, oh my God, I need to write a book right now, because that second book was an idea, but not actually in my life.
Okay, hold on a second. So you promised this event planner 130 plus copies of your book that you hadn't written yet?
Correct. And the event was 6 weeks away.
Well, then you had to get it done in 5 weeks. Got it. Okay, continue.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I wrote, copied and pasted, Frankensteined, did all of the things to make it happen. Very bull in a china shop approach, but did do it, get it done. Showed up to the event. The event turned out really well, and lovely to have that gift at one seat. Right, there was that, but the ripples, the outcomes from that experience. Right, the event planning company hired me for probably 6 more speaking events from that, because I was such an ally for them. Right, the company in the audience, it was one group of people in the audience, or from one company. Those folks hired me to speak at their headquarters in Sydney, Australia the following year. And what's pretty cool about that is they didn't have the budget to do it. So they actually sold tickets to their own employees to fund me coming to teach them similar kind of stuff that I taught them at that event at Stanford, at that 2-day training. So that was pretty cool.
That's a great story. Great lesson for our audience of fellow authors here too, by the way. Sell it before you write it. I do that all the time. But more importantly, I'm interested, what was the topic? What was the audience? What was it about?
Yeah. So, and then really talk about unexpected for me, at least at that time. So it was a group of folks from a multi-level marketing company, healthcare company, who were their $1 million earners and up. So these are like the heavy hitters, and they all wanted better leadership, better communication. Like that was some of the origin, because the name of my book that had stood out for the event planner was or the name of my business, pardon me, which became the name of my book, Influence with a Heart. And I would talk about how to be a better leader and communicator by using more empathy and story and thought leadership. And especially at that time, empathy was a big buzzword for a lot of people. And storytelling is the jam, and it's timeless, right? For your book, for your your TED Talk, your video, whatever the case may be, right? Like that's the stuff that really humanizes your expertise and gives people that opportunity to know, like, and trust you, and see you as that authority that they can go, okay, I'll jump in with that person and take this journey with you.
Great. What a great lesson for influencing and making an impact. What about the hurdles, the struggles? I don't hear about Ben's struggles along his journey here.
Oh boy.
Nobody knows about those.
How long do we have?
20 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. No, the gosh, I had some of the my own human struggles and my own spiritual being in a human body struggles throughout my life. Did a whole bunch of drugs for a whole bunch of years and just kept adding more to the mix. And all the while, like, wanting to help and wanting to serve, and just, it was a lot of like foot on the gas and foot on the brake with the drugs kind of thing. And I had this experience where I kind of the rock bottom experience of stepping out of my workplace at the time, and just I hated my work, I hated my life, I hated my relationship, like across the board, right? And I looked up at the sky and I said, I just want to be free, right? Like that was the big exclamation to the universe. And what I ended up doing about 5 months later was I went back to India for the second time. I had been in India before, and it was very, very, very impactful. And I went back a second time and had this beautiful, beautiful opportunity of understanding the most pivotal bit of kind of everything for my business and my life. And it started out with basically hiking through the Himalayas, like through the mountains of the Himalayas, for 9 days, with blisters on each of my Achilles tendons from lunchtime on day 1. So talk about a humbling experience.
Wow. Okay. So you did the whole personal suffering journey here, physically and spiritually, and everything. So give me the details. I want to know what happened. So you're walking through the Himalayas where you're in pain every single step. Yeah. What happened? How did you break out of the addiction stuff?
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I had gone back to India to, kind of get away from my life and get away at least from most of the bad drugs. Right. And, but I didn't show up to India with new boots. Right. And in getting my boots fixed in India, this is what happened. This is how suddenly these these blisters appeared on my Achilles tendon. So I'm so mad at myself and judgment and all the things, right? So it's physical pain and it's mental pain and it's, ouch, ouch, ouch every single day, all of that kind of stuff. And then I get to like day 6. And if you can imagine, I'm 12,000 feet up, right? And still above me up to like 28,000 feet or more mountains. Like these are the Himalayas, just absolutely incredible. So I'm looking around, this is day 6, and I'm going, wow, everything's extra beautiful. Like everything, why is everything so beautiful? I'm like, I'm not on drugs. Why is everything so beautiful? And I realize for the first time in my life, like, holy crap, I have essentially been forced and locked into the present moment for the last 6 days in a row with every single step I took of ouch, ouch, ouch. I was in the moment, and I have never spent so much time in the present moment in my life before that point.
That is such a great lesson. We always, I just find ourselves looking, again, either towards the future too much or regrets of the past, but being present when you're forced to, because I'm guessing I'm not sure what year you're there, no cell service, nothing around you besides the environment, right? It says you couldn't escape that part of your life. You can escape all the influences, all the environment, but you can never escape yourself, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, 2006. And, we were in like the back of nowhere. Yeah.
How many people? Is it just you? Had a guide? How many people on the track?
Yeah. So it was four participants and 2 guides.
Okay.
Yeah, and a bunch of a couple of horses and a bunch of donkeys, mules, pack animals. I forget which one specifically.
All right. So you're out there hiking. Your feet are screaming in pain. You can't turn around. You got to keep going. What was going on inside your head and your heart that made you realize there's another way of living?
Yeah, thank you. So it was really interesting, and I appreciate the question. So there was that recognition which I just shared of oh my God, being in the present moment. So from that point forward, every single step was still ow, 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 but it didn't have, that extra layer of judgment, right? It didn't have that, that guilt for not showing up with boots, right? Like, it didn't have like the overtone of like, oh, you're such an idiot, which was happening on the first 6 days, right? It was none of that, that dialogue. It was still painful, but it was just like, okay, it's just pain. And I wasn't adding that layer of suffering, right? Like that was the
totally get it. Yeah. It's the pain's still there, but I think we attach a lot of emotion to the pain, right? The whole thing about detachment, which is more Buddhist and Hindu. I'm not sure what you're thinking there, but I understand the like when I'm really like cold, I can either shake or I can just observe and go, wow, that's really cold. It really hurts. Is that kind of what you're thinking there? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with a lot of credit to the Buddha for, helping me kind of put that together. But then, funny how our lives go and funny the paths we take. Something like, so what that was 2006. So like 17 years later, maybe 16 years later, I do a meditation retreat with this teacher, this Buddhist teacher, and he teaches something that the Buddha had taught, but I had never heard before, that basically translates in super simplified form into just keep relaxing and keep smiling into the things that come up, right? Instead of like constricting around, like, I don't want this to happen, or I hate when this happens, or I'm such a jerk, right? It's just hey, I'm such a jerk. Okay, well, I'm really not, right? And just relaxing into that. And that was the other part of that was kind of close the loop on the pain and suffering bit, because I realized it was like, it's not just a mental activity of, I'm observing the thing, or, there's a difference between pain and suffering, but it's the actual, just we keep teaching our bodies, right, to just kind of like soften into the things that come up. And that was the biggest game changer for me, right? Just softening into, all the things that are going to come up anyway, but they're really just impersonal, right? You didn't ask for that itch. You didn't ask for that unpleasant emotion, right? And it was just like, wait a minute, I can get to that place by smiling and relaxing, and just keep doing that throughout my day.
Okay, that's very makes total sense. But I'm curious about the gap between the Himalayas and the 16 years later. When you get down from the mountain, with your sore ankles and stuff. When did you get off the drugs, Ben? Wait, tell me what happened here after you got back.
Yeah. Thank you. So I mean, I was officially off the drugs by time India happened. But then, after many experiences of life, right? Like you figure out a new thing and you go back into the world and you're like, okay, I know the new thing. But it's like you have to unravel and unpack all of the problems, right? So business wise, I was starting to build my business and doing it from a place of a whole bunch of debt, and negative amounts of money and not having, specific business acumen, right? Like having to learn the stuff to be an entrepreneur. But fortunately, somebody through some wonderful circumstances, like, very often comes down to relationships, right? Probably most of the time. Somebody said, hey, I'm taking my business online. Would you like to be my director of sales and marketing? This is somebody I knew through my boss, at a certain position at the time. And I said, thank you so much. I would be delighted. Is it okay that I have background in neither sales nor marketing? Right. And he said, absolutely, just figure it out. And I, figured it out, slogged it out, right? Started studying stuff online, started working with coaches and mentors, and, eventually wrote my first book and, chipping away, rebranded, had to do some catering in the middle, right? All of those, my version of the entrepreneurial kind of slogging away things. And it wasn't till till really figuring out like, hey, what I'm really good at is communication in words. And I have been reading and writing, and, I've written books, and I've wanted to write a novel since I was 12 years old. And I find myself helping people with books. And it was like, holy crap. And I happened to write a book in 5.5 weeks, or pardon me, 3.5 weeks, right, to get it done for that event. I was like, holy crap, I can actually do that. Right. So like the 12-year entrepreneurial journey so far, it was like year 9 3/4 that I was like, oh, this thing. And this is something that I can do for a long time. And it's the most enjoyable thing. One of the most enjoyable things that I do in my life, in my week, like top 3 at this point.
What do you like? What do you like best about it?
Gosh, it's that I can do coaching and consulting and speaking within the same unit of time, right? So we have 2-hour mastermind calls, right? Like I can teach some stuff, and then I can tell somebody how to do something, and then I can help them unpack something, in a coaching dialogue. And it's just like, I'm unrestricted at that point.
Right. So your business is mainly helping people write their own book. Is that right?
Yep, it's writing and publishing, and then leveraging the book both from a positioning standpoint and a monetization standpoint.
Love it. What have you found to be? I know there's 1,001 ways to do this. So, any favorite ways to get a book out there and marketed for your authors?
So let me. I'm stumbling because I'm thinking, well, pre-publishing stuff, right? Like leverage the book before it's published. Let me start there real quick.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Because so the answer is yes, and don't if you're listening, when you're listening right now, watching this, like don't wait to leverage your book, right? As soon as you even have an idea, right? Like start calling yourself the forthcoming author of such and such a book, even if you don't have the title yet, because you probably wouldn't, right? A book about such and such a topic, right? There's that expertise association of books and book writers. So leverage that right out of the gate, to get you conversations, right? To get you speaking gigs, all of that kind of stuff. And then from there, really think in terms of, so book sales are great. I love book sales. Hooray for book sales. And think of the kind of message that you potentially want to get there, the kind of collaboration that you want to create with people, right? The kind of impact you want to make. For me, I was able to make epic impact, right? Like the video game that we mentioned before. I was able to affect 20,000 people at a company by partnering with that company versus me and my email list at that time of like 700 people, right? I was able to have massive positive impact through that partnership. So, yes, sell books, that's great. And how can your book help you leverage partnerships that can help you make a crazy impact? I mean, I have a colleague, she worked with a company and talked them in or invited them to buy books, and they said yes. They bought 500,000 books, 500,000 copies of her book. One person, maybe two people said yes to that, right? 500,000 book sales. Absolutely.
Man, you're singing my tune. So many people, some of my clients ask about the New York Times bestseller. I'm like, yeah, it's a nice accolade, but would you want to make an impact? Do you want to get famous? If you only had to choose one of those, what do you want? Which is it? So to your
Impact.
point, those books, those 500,000 books, I'm guessing, were sold direct from author to the client. They don't get registered on bestseller lists, but they sold more books than a lot of bestsellers. So that's a fascinating story. Give me if you can give me in the next 5 minutes or so some tactical things an author can do to set up those opportunities for themselves. A lot of people have heard this story or stories like this. I've got a bunch of myself, but
Sure.
most authors are afraid to call a company, or they don't know what to call or how to align, or like you're probably going to say, like I say, why don't you focus on what the company needs first, then write the book? I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about this. What would be a good story or some list you could give us on that?
Yeah. So a couple quick things. Just what I mentioned before. Start calling yourself the author of that forthcoming book, right? As soon as you can, get a 3D. Get somebody on Fiverr or wherever to do a nice 3D digital cover of your book, right? Put it up on LinkedIn and other places and talk about being the forthcoming author of that book. And remember that, you have a title and a subtitle, and you can even have a second subtitle. So put the keywords and key phrases that would resonate, easy for me to say, that would resonate with your audience right in the title and subtitle, right? Like the way that I got that gig with the Fortune 100 company was from putting this digital cover on my LinkedIn profile. They saw that I had empathy as part of what I was talking about in terms of communication, and that was some of what opened the door right there. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing is to make sure, like, we're experts here, and often when we're experts, we miss stuff because we're experts, right? Because the people we're serving often aren't experts in our space, right? Most of the time. So make sure to have conversations with great past clients, great current clients, and great potential new clients or partners about your book, using the invitation of, hey, I'm writing my book. Can we chat for 20 minutes or tell the such and such a topic, right? Can we chat for 20 minutes? I'd love to ask you some questions so I can write a great book, right? And ask them those basic but vitally important questions, like what challenges, right? What fears, what frustrations, those kind of baseline marketing questions, and get their language, and make sure that you're not, in your expertise, missing some of that foundational stuff that's absolutely important to people. And have these conversations with potential partners, right? Not just clients. This is where you can ostensibly create a book around the needs of a particular organization. Hey, CEO, what are your challenges? What are your fears? Whatever that thing is, let that person tell you, and then be like, hey, look, I have this thing in the works, or we can customize this to your sales team, or whatever the case may be.
Danny, great nuggets of wisdom there, folks. And I talked about it playing my clients. I'm so glad Ben here is backing it up and saying, don't even. I mean, you can have an idea or a theme, but don't write a single word until you talk to your audience. Make sure they want to hear about it, and use their own words, for gosh sake. Use their language. I know it sounds obvious to us, but I'm like, yeah, you gotta actually talk to them ahead of time. One of the things I found with a lot of authors is the old I'm thinking about it. I know I should. I don't have the time or the skill and whatnot. I know I should. There's a huge amount of people that have great stories and great ideas and whatnot, but their ideas, they die when they do, and their book never gets out there. How do you help a person who's a little bit shy, gun shy, to get their book done? How do you get them over that fence?
Yeah, thank you. So depending on the person and what their needs are, for some people it's the tactical and strategic understanding of like how could I, this person with these kind of challenges and limitations, perceived limitations, get this done? Maybe there's time concerns, maybe there's fear of writing. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything original. Whatever that case may be, that I help people really understand, the precision process that I take people through, which really eliminates a lot of thinking, right? I'm very much come from the place of, here's a blueprint from your book for your book, do exactly what I say and how to say it. Right? So helping people understand exactly what they need to do for every component of the book. That's the approach I take, because when people can see the path clearly, understand what they're responsible for, what the agreement that I have with that person, then they feel, clear and calm about how to move forward, right? Like, what is it? How much time do they actually need per week to dedicate to their book, right? In a way that supports their life, right? Because you don't want to just start writing a book and then, completely neglect your family and everything else, right? You want to make sure that the things fit. So helping people fit it and understand it and know that it's not going to be a forever situation. They're just going to be writing forever, but giving boundaries and constraints and very, very clear, granular understanding to make it happen. Good boundaries, so shall we say. So that's one part. And then the other part is just I take my people through facing their death, literally as part of my process. And that's quite a galvanizing experience for them.
That's an old fashioned goal setting technique or life planning thing. We talk about, here's your eulogy. Go ahead and write it before somebody else does, right? So you do that early in the process, or when do you do walking people?
I do it early and I do it periodically, right? Because I think it's important, not only for the galvanizing energy, like I said before, right? It's like, okay, I got to do this thing before I, God forbid I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't write my book, right? There's that reason, but also when you're faced with your death, when one is faced with their death, right? It makes it really clear, like, what kind of legacy, what kind of message do you want to share? Who do you want to share it with? That all comes to the fore really directly. And then, my function is to, help connect that desire and that impetus to that plan, and then make sure to bridge it to, obviously, I don't want to say obviously, make sure to bridge it. Let me remind everybody to, what are the audience's challenges and fears and goals and dreams and all that kind of stuff, right? So connecting the dots, of impending death, what people really need, and one heck of a schedule is how I help folks make it happen.
I think it's obvious once you write it down. I mean, if you eventually trying to correct yourself, like, yeah, once you write it down, here's my eulogy and here's where I am. Ooh, gap analysis. I better get this done. Brilliant stuff. Okay, what's last bit of wisdom you can leave with the audience today, Ben? I'm curious. If you can only teach us one thing today, what would it be?
Yeah, thank you. It's really about the smiling and the relaxing. So the first part is to smile as much as you possibly can throughout your day, right? It doesn't mean you have to smile like crazy, cheesy smile, but just turn up the corners of your mouth, because that lightens your mind, opens the space to really, to receive insight and wisdom, whether you call it spiritual insight, wisdom, a download, your intuition, your higher self, whatever the case may be. You open up to the creativity, to the insight, to the genius, right? Like the things that often will happen in the shower, you're like, here's such a great idea. The more you smile, the more you can engineer that, right? Just keep practicing in that. And whenever you feel uncomfortable, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? Relax your head, relax your face, and smile, and just keep smiling and keep staying in that place of love, because the more we can stay in the heart and use the head, a little bit more as the tool, the more we can open up to, to like all the magic and gifts of not only what's around us, but who we are and what we can bring to the world. So that's what I got.
That is the best thing I've heard all day. You've articulated better than I ever have. I've been thinking about that for years, but that's You spot on, man. This is the bigger brain, so use it more often. I love it. What do you have anything? How can people get a hold of you? What do you got? Any gifts? What do you got here?
I got all the stuff. Thank you. Yeah. So Doug, as you know, and for everybody, right? Testimonials and reviews are super important for your book, for your brand, for your business, right? They're just absolutely important. So I have a really wonderful testimonials template that people can use. It's like Mad Libs. It's very plug and play. So whenever you want to get testimonials from people, one thing you can do is say, hey, can you write me a testimonial? I know you're super busy, so I pre-wrote this testimonial for you, right? Could you bless it, edit it, or write a new one? So it's a template. It's 51 templates, 51 different ways to write. So you just plug and play, send it along. You can get that at bookreviews.cc. Once again, bookreviews.cc. So yeah, take that and enjoy that and love up yourself with testimonials.
I am downloading that myself today. Thank you so much. My very first book I wrote years ago, I had no testimonials at all. I didn't know anybody. So I put down like the 5 most famous dead people I knew, and I put in my book. Well, they're not alive today, but if they were, this is what they would have said about my book. So I had like Abraham Lincoln endorsing my book. So now that I know a few people, I can get real endorsements. But I'll get those templates. Bookreviews.cc. But that's crazy.
I'm sorry, Doug. I love what you did in that first book. I am so tickled by that. So well done.
Yeah, well, I didn't know anybody, so I made something up, but I was honest about it. I didn't say they actually, Abraham Lincoln didn't read my book, but if he had, this is what he might have said. So I said,
understood.
Anyway.
Understood. Yeah.
Well, babe. Ben, Gioia, thank you so much. Ends with the heart. Go get this thing. I'm gonna get a book. It's book reviews with it plural.
Plural, correct.
Bookreviews.cc. Get that review thing, folks, and check it out. Ben, Gioia, thank you so much for being on the show today. Appreciate you. And don't forget, folks, if you want to subscribe to the show, we've got some goodies for you too. You have to subscribe to find out what they are, because Ben's thing is free. Mine's also free. All we want, probably an email address. This is Doug Crow, the Author Brand Show. Have a great day.